Oh, hi guys, welcome to the Totally Magic channel. Got a great trick for you today. It's a quickie, but I think you're going to like it. We take a deck of cards shuffled and cut. Not that we're going to get you to pick a card from this particular deck. We're not going to get you to do a physical selection, but I do want to just show you that these cards are just mixed regular cards. Now you see, we've come into the modern world. We no longer physically take a card, I get you to pick one virtually. I want you to imagine all 52 pictures from a deck, and just when you get the urge, I want you just to reach out and think of any one. Have you got one? That's good. Now that you've got one in your mind, I'm going to attempt to read that thought, that virtual thought you have, by asking you just a few questions and you just answer yes or no. You see, if I was to take some cards from this pack and show you the faces, is the value of your card there? It's not. Let's see if we can find it among another array of cards. Half a dozen cards, is it there? It is there. Success. Doesn't really tell me much. Let's try a different angle. All cards in a deck have either clubs, spades, diamonds or hearts. If I was to show you a few cards, tell me, is the suit of your card among them? It is. Success again. What if I show you these? Is it among these? It's not. You see, out of the 52 cards, I'm going to pick a physical selection. I know it's been a bit vague what you've been giving, yes and no and yes and no. Yeah, the physical selection I'm getting is this one. For the first time, revealed to me and everyone else, what is the card that you mentally selected? The 8 of clubs. It couldn't be, could it? It certainly is. The 8 of clubs. So here's the secret to this great effect. Now, I'm going to go through how the routine was done just very quickly. It does involve a stack. If however you got nothing better to do on this lockdown situation and you got 10 minutes to kill, then stick around to the very end of this video and I'll go through the background, how it was devised and put together, all the mathematics behind it. But if you're not too concerned about that, don't worry about watching the very end of this video, because the secret is right here and now. So let's get the performance and secret out of the way. It does involve a card stack, as you probably gathered. Now I'm just going to go through the stacks. Now what you've actually got, they're in blocks of 6. Okay, now let's go through the first 4. When somebody thinks of any card, you're going to show them 4 groups of cards. Okay, now this group here contains 7 cards. What I do is I put these down here, and if you want to make a note of those, now the suits you're not worried about. These 4 stacks of cards, it's just the values, okay, because at the start of the trick you're asking them to look for their value. So it's nothing to do with the suits, so you can choose any suits from the pack you like, okay, but as long as you've got these cards here, I've got a 3, 5, 7, king, ace, jack, 9. The order is neither here nor there, so as long as you've got those values, there's 7 cards in there. Now one thing you've got to remember is that this stack has a value of 1. The next stack that you show them has 6 cards in, and let me just show you these. And the values we've got here is a 3, 7, 2, jack, 6 and 10. Once again, the suits you don't need to worry about. It's the values. Make a note of those. Now this packet has a value of 2. The next stack that you show them, if I put these out, 6 cards again, there's a 6, 5, 4, Queen, King, 7. This has a value of 4. And finally, this stack of 6 cards has an 8, 9, 10, Jack, Queen, King. Once again, the suits you don't need to worry about, just the values. And this little stack has a value of 8. Now, this plays an important part to reveal the value of the chosen card, the thought of card. Remember, this stack is worth 1, this is worth 2, this is worth 4, and this is worth 8. Now, the way this works is that when you show them each of these stacks, you remember its value. So, for example, if the person said their card was in this stack and this one, but it didn't appear in these, you know the value of their card. Remember, this pile has a value of 2 and this is a 4. If you add those two values together, that gives you 6. Okay. If they chose this one and this one, they said they saw their card in here. Remember, this has a value of 4, this has a value of 8. That means the card they selected was a 12. If they said their card was in this one and this one, you know it was a king, because this has a value of 1, this has a value of 4, this has a value of 8. So by a combination of, if their card appears in either of these 4 packets, you can always determine the value of their chosen card. It's as simple as that. Once again, the values are 1, 2, 4 and 8. That's it. And you stack these on top like this. The next 2 stacks of 6 cards in each, we have in here a selection. The values you're not worried about. All you want to do from the pack, you just want to pick out an array of 2 suits, clubs and hearts. Okay, that's all you've got. You'll see I've just got clubs and hearts. It doesn't matter how many or what the values are, you just need clubs and hearts. The second packet you show them has a mixture of hearts and spades only. Now, depending what they say will determine what the suit is. So these tell you the value. When you show them this packet and say, is the suit of your thought of card in among these? Now, let's say they picked a club. Well, if they said yes, you know their card is either a heart or a club. When you show them the second packet, if they were to say no, straight away you know it was a club, because remember, it can be a club or a heart. When you show them this, there's hearts in there. So if they say no, it's not in there, then you know they picked a club. So you know the value and the suit now. If they said yes here and yes here, you know that it's a heart, because there's hearts in here and there's hearts in here. If they said no to these, you know straight away it's definitely not a heart and it's definitely not a club. So you can eliminate that. When you come to show the second packet, we know it's got to be a spade or a diamond. If they said their suit wasn't here, you know straight away it's a diamond. If they said yes, their suit was there, we know it's going to be a spade. Now I'm not going to spend too long over this. If you lay these out, you'll get an idea that just by showing them this and this, you can determine which suit they've got. So they're the stacks that you've got, and what I do is I put these on top. The rest of the pack is just regular, so you put this stack here, this stack on there. You can do some false shuffles and cuts if you want. They think of any card, and when you show these, they just look random anyway. Handle them in a loose manner. When you go to peel off some cards, just take off. Remember, the first stack is going to be 7 cards. Okay, so just push off 7, but don't make a deal of this. I don't kind of go 1, 2, 3, 4. Just casually say, look, I tell you what, if I was to grab some cards and show you these, and they would look at these and say yes or no, you can get rid of these. You can even put them to the bottom. From now on, the stacks are always going to be in 6. So you can now take off 6 more, show them, take off 6 more, and show them, and so on and so forth. So you go through the 4 stacks and remembering which ones they said yes and no to. When they say yes, just remember its value. Remember the values of the first 4 stacks are 1, 2, 4 and 8. Okay, so you can go through showing these casually, and then eventually, once you've determined which value they've got, you can then move on and say, well, all cards have colours, red and black, and those can be hearts, diamonds, spades. I want you just to look at these cards. Do you see your suit? And when you show them, if they said no, you put these and you kind of think and say, I'll show you the next 6 cards. Sorry, you don't actually say you're going to show 6 cards, just push them off, show them randomly. If they were to say yes, you know it's a spade. You can then play the rest of the trick, because at this point it looks as though the cards have been shuffled and mixed. They look random. It looks like you've just peeled off a few cards, shown them. They've just answered yes, no. Out of 52 cards, they find it impossible that you would know what their card is. Remember, they don't know you've got a stack. The ending you can play as you want. You can go through, because by now you know what their card is. You can write it down on a piece of paper, or you can just call it out or build it up. Look into their eyes, pretend you're mind reading. I'll leave the revelation up to you, but that's how it works. If you want to see the ins and outs of how we arrived at this and the mathematical side, then stick around. The next 10 minutes might bore most of you, but if you've got nothing better to do, then hang around and watch the rest of the video just to see how it was devised. The trick is based on an old magic principle, and I'm sure what I've got in my hand here, every one of you and even you, I bet you've all got these or had them at some point in the past. Every magic set for children has these, and even your Christmas crackers have these. Does anyone recognise them? They're the magic number cards. Do you remember these? And you would ask someone to think of a number between 1 and 30, and just by them saying whether or not it appears on any of the cards, you could tell them what their thought of number was. Now, anyone that's got these number cards will know that it's based on a binary number system. So let's get into that. So here we have pen and paper. You almost feel like you're back at school. But very briefly, binary numbers. If I put a number down, 1, if I double that 1, it gives me 2. If I double that number, it gives me 4, and if I double that, it gives me 8. And if I was to carry on doubling it, it'd be 16, 32. With those binary numbers, you can create any number using just those 4 numbers there. Now, because I only wanted 13, up to 13, this would suit me perfectly. So I knew that if I showed 4 hands of cards, I would label each hand as a 1, a 2, a 4 and an 8. Then I had to decide what playing cards would be shown in those cards. If you remember, during the trick I held up a few cards and showed the audience a bunch of cards. So what I actually did was this. If we go through all 13 cards, first of all the ace, the 1, well, that only needs to appear in the first hand because that would equate to a 1. So let me just write this down. So we would have a 1 or an ace. It wouldn't appear in any of the others. What about a 2? Well, that would appear in this one because it's a 2. Now what about a 3? If someone had the card value of 3, how could I make up 3? Well, out of all of these, it would have to appear, there would have to be a 3 in this hand and this hand. Because if someone said to me, yes, my card appears in that first bunch of cards and also the second, what I do is I add these 2 numbers together, the 1 and the 2 gives me 3. So I know that their card is a 3. What about 4? Well, that could just appear in this hand here. So I can have that appear there. 5, well, that would have to be in the 4 and the 1. So what I'm doing here is working out which playing cards I'm going to hold up in each hand. 6 would be appearing in there and there. 7 would be in all 3 hands. So 7, 7 and 7. 8, well, that would be in this hand. Doesn't have to appear anywhere else. 9 would be in here along with a 1. So you can see what happens here. If someone chose a card with a value of 9, then when I show them the 4 packets, they would say yes to this one. So I would keep the 1 in my head. They would say no to this, but they would say yes to this packet because there's a 9 in there. I know that's got a value of 8 to it, so I add the 1 and the 8 together, gives me 9. It's a great system. It's been used in a lot of tricks. The 10 would appear here, but it would also appear in the 2 hand. 11, which is the jack, would appear here, but it would also have to appear in the 2 and the 1. So that would be 8, 9, 10 and 11. 12, which is the queen, would appear here, and it would have to appear here as well in the 4. And the king, 13, would appear here. It would also appear in here and in the 1. And that's my 4 hands of cards. The suits, it doesn't make any difference. So what I would do is go through my pack, and if I can find my cards in here somewhere, I need a 1, a 3, a 5. So a 1, a 3 and a 5, a 7, a 9, an 11 and 13. So you can see they're my first hand of cards. Now you will notice there is a discrepancy here, and unless you guys can come up with an answer, all of my packets that I showed had 6 cards in except the first one. There were 7 in that. But you don't make a big deal of it, just say I'm going to show you a handful of cards, and then in the other ones just say a handful of cards, half a dozen cards, etc. So there it is. That's my first hand. I got the second hand with these values, the third and the fourth. They're all in here. So after I've shown the 4 hands of cards, I will, by that point, know what value their card is. Now I've just got to find the suit. Clubs, hearts, spades, diamonds. What I came up with was clubs, and hearts. I also had hearts again and spades. And let me show you what I mean. The next 6 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you'll notice have nothing but clubs and hearts. Okay, so when I show them that and say, do you see your suit? If they said yes to that, we know that their card is either a club or a heart, but we don't know which. When we show them the second 6 cards, which contain spades and hearts, so I'll just get a selection of these, and again it doesn't really matter what you have. Okay, so I've just got some spades and hearts there. If the spectator says yes, my suit is in there, straight away I know it's a heart, because they said yes to that. And if they say yes to this, I know it's going to be the hearts. Yeah, so that's going to be the heart. If they said yes, their suit is in the first hand, but they said no to this one, then you know it's not a heart, and because they chose this one, it's going to be the club, so you know it's a club. If when you showed them these here, they said it wasn't there, when you showed them the second hand, they said it is there, you know they've got spades. So this one will be clubs, that will be spades. The diamonds we don't need to worry about, because if I show both sets of those and they say no and no, then you know it's going to be just diamonds. Okay, so if they said no, it's not in there, not in there, it is diamonds on there.